Hi, I'm Ethan. Today, I'm going to show you how to set up the Mintlify web editor, use it to update your documentation, and how you can collaborate with your team. Before you follow along with this video, you'll need to have created a Mintlify account and gone through our onboarding. You're also going to need a GitHub account. You can access the web editor from the Mintlify dashboard. Select in the sidebar. The first time you open the editor, you're going to be prompted to install our GitHub app. Select that option, and it's going to take you to GitHub where you can configure the app. We only need access to the repository where your documentation is stored. For me, that's a repository called Mintlify Docs. So I'm going to select the Only Select Repositories option, find my repo, choose it, and install and authorize it. Once the app has installed, you're going to be redirected back to the Mintlify web editor. Here, you can see a file tree that matches your documentation repository. Any file here is going to render as it'll look on your documentation website. For example, we can look at this article about the varieties of mint. You can see I have formatted text, I have some Mintlify card components, and if we go to my documentation site, we see the same text formatted here and the same card components. I'm noticing this one is missing an icon, and there's some other changes I want to make to this page. So let's go back to the web editor and make those changes now. I want to start with adding another section here. I want a header, so I have two options. I can press slash to pull up a menu that offers text formatting, as well as access to different components, such as callouts, accordions, cards, code examples. Or I can also use Markdown syntax to specify a header. For formatting text, you can also use common keyboard shortcuts. For example, you can use Command B to get bold text, If you prefer working with Markdown syntax directly, you can choose Markdown mode in the top bar of the editor. Selecting this will give you a layout as if you're working in your IDE. You can use Markdown syntax, but today, let's stay in the visual editor. Now, I saw that card needed an icon. I'm going to go here, select it to see the metadata about the card, scroll down, and let's specify an icon. I think that looks perfect. So now I'm ready to push these changes to my site. I'm going to select Publish, and once that finishes, we'll be able to refresh my site and see the changes immediately live. So let's go back and we'll refresh, scroll down, and we can see my changes. We have the text and we have the icon. Now I don't always want to publish my changes that they're immediately live. Sometimes I want to work in a space where I can check how they look, share them with coworkers, and review them before I make them available on my public site. And we can do that on the web editor using branches. I'm going to go over that now. So branching is a Git concept, and I'm going to discuss it in a bit more detail later. But for now, I think it's helpful to see it in practice. To create a branch, select the branch menu at the top left corner and specify a new branch. You're going to need to name your branch. Generally, it's best practice to give it a descriptive name about what update you're making so that you can remember what it's for and anyone else who's viewing it gets a sense of what it is. I want to add a new overview page, so I'm going to call this Mint Overview. Then I'll create the branch, and once the editor refreshes, we'll select that branch. You can see that we're now in the Mint Overview branch, and the Publish button has changed to Publish Pull Request. Now, if we were to publish any changes, instead of going immediately to our live site, it will create a pull request on GitHub, which we can review, and then later choose to merge into our main documentation. I'll go over exactly how that works once we get there. But now, let's make a new file. I'm going to go to my folder with my Mint documents and select New File. I'm going to call it About Mint. Give it a title and a description. And then I'll add some content to it. I'll format this a little bit. I'm going to turn this into a header. And then I prefer sentence case for my headers. And this should probably be italicized. Great, so we made some changes. This is looking pretty good. So I'm going to save my changes. And now I want to create a pull request, which is a way to propose merging these changes into my main branch so that they will be published on my live documentation site. I'm going to select the Publish Pull Request option, and it's going to ask us to give a title and a description. Similar to the branch, it's best practice to give descriptive titles that say what's being changed so that if someone else were to come and review your pull request, they'll understand what it is. So I'm going to say add about Mint page, and then I'll say this pull request. It's a new overview of Mint. Select Publish, and you'll have the option to view it on GitHub. With a pull request on GitHub, you can share this with a team member so that they can review it, give you feedback, make suggestions, and then ultimately choose whether you want to merge these changes into your documentation, or you can close the pull request if you decide you don't want to make those changes. Select Files Change to see your updates. I can see I've got the page I added. However, I'm realizing now I forgot to add this page to my navigation. I'm going to have to go back to the web editor and do that. That's one of the great parts about pull requests, is you can iteratively push updates to them. So let's return to the web editor. I'm going to add this new file to my docs.json file so it's in the navigation. If you're not familiar with this file, that's okay. For now, you can just follow along to see how I'm going to add this to the navigation, but I'd recommend that you read the Mintlify documentation about settings and navigation after this video. So I'm going to go to where I have my Mint group and add my new file here. Great, that's where I want it. So I'm going to save those changes. And then I'll return to GitHub where I see this refresh icon, meaning there's been new changes made to my pull request. I go here, I can see that the docs.json now has my new file, so I should be ready to publish this. I'm going to go back to the main part of the pull request and then choose the option to merge pull request. This is making my changes part of the main branch from which my documentation site is deployed. After the site redeploys, my changes will be live. Let's go back to my documentation site, we'll refresh it and see those changes. So if we scroll down, we see the new file is here. Branches and pull requests are what let you collaborate with team members using the web editor and people who are working locally. I'll give a demonstration of that, but first, let's talk a little bit more about what exactly is happening with a branch. Your documentation is built from a branch. It's usually called main. That's how mine is on the documentation that I've been showing you. Your main branch contains all the information that is on your public documentation website. You can create a branch at any time from that, which gives you an environment where you can safely make changes, get edits, experiment, try anything you want. It's contained on that branch. When you're finished working on a branch, if you like the changes and want them to be part of your main documentation site, you can merge that branch back into your main branch. So for example, I wanted to create that new page. When it was on the branch, it was only on that branch. It wasn't until I merge it back into my main branch that is published. This gives you a lot of freedom for collaboration because you can try something entirely new that you're not sure if it meets a user need, decide it's great, merge it into your website, or decide it's not quite what you want and just close the branch. No problems at all. You can also have as many branches as you want, so you and your team can work on your documentation at the same time, even in the same files, and not worry about other people's changes affecting you in real time. You can also share and access branches remotely, which really encourages collaboration because if one person likes working in the web editor and someone else likes to work in their local environment, you can create a branch and both people can make changes on that branch working in the way they prefer. We can go over this now. I'll open GitHub Desktop and show you how you would check out a branch locally. Here, I'm in the Mintlify docs repository that we've been working in the web editor. I'm going to select the branch, and I'm going to look for our Mint overview branch that we've been working on. I've switched on to it, and now I can make any changes that I wanted and push those changes back up to GitHub so that I can collaborate with anyone who's using the web editor or also working locally who checks out the same branch. We covered quite a few concepts today: how to set up the web editor, how to use it for editing your documentation, and some ways that you can collaborate with your team members while you're working in the web editor. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments, and I always love to see what you've been building. If you've made something cool using Mintlify lately, post on social media, tag us, and I can't wait to see it.